Brian Kelly met with reporters on Tuesday after practice, and one of the things the conversation sort of steered toward, and I'm glad it did, because admittedly we have not spent enough time so far in this fall camp talking about special teams, but I don't know if it was intentional or however it might have been, but a lot of the questioning toward Brian Kelly was about special teams, and we have talked plenty throughout fall camp about Garrett Nussmeier's patellar tendonitis. We have talked about some of the struggles the offensive line has had. We've talked about all the excitement surrounding the pass rushers and the defense. We've talked about A.J. Halsey and a lot of the newcomers and the embarrassment of riches at receiver. We've talked about darn near everything. We have not, however, spent a ton of time talking about the specialists and the special teams. And I wanted to take some time to diagnose this, because Brian Kelly sort of talked about it, maybe not even knowingly, but in three phases that I think are critical for LSU. And I want to remind you, since Brian Kelly showed up in 2022, this has been a major point of angst for fans. The fact that there has never been a dedicated special teams coordinator coaching on the field. Remember, Brian Kelly's first year, it was Brian Polian. And then it was supposed to be John Jancic. They had all of the staff shuffling after Jimmy Lindsey's illness. Bob Diaco helped, and they divvied up the roles. Then a year ago, they brought in Slade Nagel, who had the title of running the special teams, but really it was Bob Diaco at practice running all the special teams, and it was just a bit disjointed. Well, remember, the rules have changed now to where analysts can coach on the field. So there's really no limit to your staff. Yes, you have 10 full-time staff members that can actually go out and recruit, but there's no limit to who can be on the field helping. And so LSU brought in Aman Anand from Grambling. And look, he's been at Penn State, he's been at Baylor, he's been at Memphis, he's been at major programs. And last year at Grambling, they were arguably the best special teams unit in the FCS. And this is the first time, at least that I'm aware, that Brian Kelly was asked so directly and talked at length about the job that Aman Anand has done. And make no mistake, when you go out there, there's one dude who is in charge of that entire unit. He's an analyst, but he is the special teams coordinator. Here was Brian Kelly on the new coordinator, Aman Anand.
I think he breaks special teams down to its fundamental form. Many coordinators that I've had at the position, were much more unit-driven, meaning, you send your 11 guys out on punt and you work on punt. Or you send your 11 guys out on kickoff return, and all you do is kickoff return. We're much more in pods, where we're working the right up back and the left up back, or we're just working the wall, or we're just working the gunners on techniques. And it's really resonated with our players in the sense that they really feel like they're being coached from a technical standpoint, and then bring the unit in and let them execute together as 1/11th. I think he's done an incredibly great job of utilizing the entire coaching staff, so everybody's involved. Then plug in some playmakers, right? They all become now better because we're so much more technically sound in all those areas.
Okay, so Brian Kelly talked about how they're breaking it down into pods, which is true. We see that. He talked about utilizing the entire staff. Like, let me give you an example by extension. We were at practice on Monday when we had some availability on Monday, and when they're at the indoor facility, the media goes up to the catwalk, and I believe I was standing next to Michael Cobble from WBRZ, and I noticed, because I was standing right about midfield and looking down to my right where the offense was, and the specialists were like the snappers, holders right in front of me. And I noticed Eric Held right there at midfield working with, I think it was maybe the snappers, the punters, the holders. And if you don't know, Eric Held's a longtime high school coach in the state. He was the head of the Louisiana Coaches Association. He was just hired this offseason to join Brian Kelly's staff, sort of as the liaison between the high schools in the state and the high school, maintaining high school relations with the LSU football program. Very important role. But Held's background, like, he went to Brother Martin, then went to Nichols, where he's a teammate of Frank Wilson, incidentally, and was a specialist. And as a high school coach, really his forte was special teams. So this guy's a very smart special teams dude who's working on the field with some of the specialists. So the point being, you've got, what Brian Kelly said there, he's utilizing the entire staff. It's very clear they're utilizing the entire staff there. He also mentioned playmakers. And this is so critical because, as hard as it is to believe, for as long as LSU. I mean, I can go back 30 years and talk about Todd Kinchin and Eddie Kennison and Kevin Falk and Rondell Mealy and Dominic Davis and Skylar Green and Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu and Odell Beckham. We go down the list. You all know the names. LSU's always had dudes that are super athletic. They get the ball in their hands. They go make plays. And it's so odd that in 2022, the very first game, Malik Neighbors, the all-time leading receiver in the history of LSU football, Malik Neighbors muffs 2 punts, and then after that, they run Greg Clayton back there just as a former walk-on just to go catch the ball. Just as soon as that ball leaves the punter's foot, wave your hand in the air, fair catch, just don't give up possession and field position. And it feels like you're starting to see that turn. At the end of last season, Aaron Anderson returned to kickoff for a touchdown against Oklahoma. Xavier Thomas returned to kickoff for a touchdown against Baylor in the bowl game. Now you add Barry and Brown, and Brian Kelly knows, like, they have the opportunity here to be dynamic in the return game.
You punt it to us, we want to return that son of a gun every single time. I will tell you that we are working diligently with the knowledge that we have game breakers. We know that they can flip the field. Look, and this isn't to bash anybody, right? But you watch us play, we very rarely, other than a couple of returns, which we had, we didn't flip the field with our feet. In other words, we didn't flip the field very often with the punt game. We need to flip the field and put the pressure on offenses. And we didn't do a very good job of that last year. So as much as it is about returns, we got to flip the field too. And then let our defense get the ball back for our offense on a short field.
And the defense. That's the third part, where when you think about special teams, so often we think about the specialists, and that matters. And Brian Kelly told us Grant Chadwick's been awesome. Damian Ramos is back for his 4th year as the place kicker. Aaron Burrell is an automatic touchback. He booms the ball out of the end zone. You have a new snapper in Jonathan Ferguson. Chadwick is going to be the holder. My head's cut off like right there. Chadwick's going to be the holder. So you've got some changes there that are going to take place. But when you think about the rest of special teams, you are talking about all the different players that make up the unit. So those are going to block and tackle. And when you have great depth on a team, that means you have much better units on special teams. Like, think about it a year ago when you look at when Jacobian Guillory went out at defensive tackle with an injury. Now you're kicking Paris Shand inside. You're kicking Gio Paez inside. Ahmad Bro has to play as a true freshman. It was a real challenge because you didn't have great depth. Well, now you're talking about a guy like Patrick Payton, who has almost 40 career TFLs, who's running with the twos at defensive end. Like, you have incredible depth on both sides of the ball, and that right there is going to make you that much better on special teams when you have really freakishly athletic and talented people running on your special teams units. So, yes, I think all the way around. Listen, Brian Kelly's first year, there's a metric called a special teams efficiency rating, and you don't need to know what it all is, but instead of like looking unit by unit and saying, well, we're 15th in this and 12th in that or whatever, or 74th in that, they take all the special teams unit, they blend it together, get an average of efficiency. And when you looked at LSU and Brian Kelly's first year, they were 122nd. And then they went to 77th, and last year they were just inside the top 40. This feels like this could be a year with all those elements where this could be one of the best special teams units across the board in the country. So, a great opportunity for LSU in that third phase this year to impact it in so many different ways.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.